Hello and welcome to the Blood Reds Morning Bulletin. I'm joined by my fellow Liverpool.com writer, James Martin, and we're going to talk about the Premier League title. Obviously, last night, everyone concluded their penultimate games of the season, which saw Everton stay in the Premier League through the help of Steven Gerrard, whose Aston Villa drew with Burnley. And now, obviously, Gerrard could also play a role in the Premier League title. How optimistic are you feeling about that, James?
Yeah, it looked like he was going to do the perfect double for a little while there, didn't it? With Everton were losing, Burnley were going along nicely against Villa. It's like, could Gerrard relegate Everton and win Liverpool the league in the space of a few days? But that wasn't to be. So yeah, like you say, focus shifts to the last set of fixtures. I mean, optimistic is probably the word. It's not like there's a hugely realistic chance. I don't think anyone can expect it to happen, but there's no reason we can't be optimistic. Villa have picked up a few decent results since Gerrard came in. I think certainly before last night's game, they were eighth in the league in terms of points per game since Gerrard came in, which is a pretty reasonable return. There's some good players in there, some handy players who can come up with just these individual moments, which are the sort of things that, on the right day with the right circumstances can even hurt the big teams. So a lot of things need to go Liverpool's way, of course, but I don't think there's anything wrong with being a little bit optimistic.
Yeah, exactly. And, leading up to the Burnley game, he kind of tried to deny that he's even looking at the Premier League title or has any care towards it, which I'm sure is not the case. He's still a Liverpool fan at heart. But how much of that do you think is influencing his decision-making heading into the game?
Yeah, I mean, I don't believe him when he says he's not even looking at the table, that's for sure. But I don't think it'll influence his decision making too much either. I mean, some will say, they look at the Burnley game and Coutinho didn't start that one, but then he didn't start one a couple of weeks back either. So there has been a case of sort of managing his minutes as the season draws to a close. Of course, Aston Villa are playing midweek as well, which is unusual for them. So I think probably it's all above board. I don't think necessarily he was just resting players purely to try and do Liverpool a favour or anything like that. But yeah, I don't think we can be too surprised that he's denying it. He's the consummate professional, isn't he? Any kind of mention of Liverpool, you'd almost think he hates the club because he just tries to shut it down so much. But yeah, that's only because he knows the questions are inevitable. He knows that everyone knows how much he loves Liverpool. So yeah, he's just trying to be professional, but we'll see if the mask slips if he does get a result on the last day.
I mean, surely deep down, his Liverpool heart would love to win the league for Liverpool on the final day. And if he does, I say get him over from across the motorway from Manchester to Liverpool and get him involved in the celebrations and Coutinho and Ings. And I think Villa are kind of playing up to that as well. I don't know if you saw their Twitter post the other day when with Ings and Coutinho warming up. It does feel like they're kind of playing into it.
Yeah, I mean that's a smart social media move, isn't it? Everyone knows that the hopes of hundreds of thousands of Liverpool fans are pinned on them. So yeah, literally just a trailing picture of Coutinho and Ings is bound to do ridiculous numbers for them. So I mean, I applaud the social media strategy, but whether it's an indication of the players' mindset, I don't know. But a lot of these teams do like that kind of let's spoil the party kind of mentality, that kind of mindset. Yeah, there's no rivalry there, of course. There's no historic Aston Villa Man City rivalry to tap into. But I do feel like, just in terms of most players, if you get to the last day and you have a chance to influence the title race, even if you're not directly in the title race, I feel like there is that kind of slight extra motivation to go out and cause a bit of an upset, write yourself into history a little bit. So yeah, I think it's helped that we force it to the last day in that sense. I do think the kind of on the beach factor maybe doesn't apply quite as much, just because this is it. It's a shame it's not in front of their fans, but it's their sign-off game. It's the last one of the season. You want to go out on a high, and yeah, in this case, you want to potentially determine the destination of the Premier League trophy.
Well, you say there's no rivalry, but I'm sure some Aston Villa fans will feel some sort of resentment towards Man City after they bought Jack Grealish from them. Although personally, I don't think I would complain about 100 million, but I think there was certainly some people who felt bitter about it. And I saw Grealish do an interview after the West Ham game where he said he couldn't wait to lift the Premier League trophy. It almost felt like, you kind of forgot that there's one more game left to go and there's still a job to be done. That kind of complacency and maybe that kind of added motivation for Villa could maybe I'm just clutching at straws here, but could certainly play a role. No.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're allowed some straw clutching. I think it's our right as Liverpool fans when this is the last time the quadruple will be on the line this season, most likely. But I mean, absolutely fair play to this team to get to make sure that's still alive come the last day of the Premier League season. It almost defies belief. But yeah, I think it's true. I mean, no one was thrilled about that transaction where they losing the best player, just sort of strong-armed by the richest club in the league, or as was anyway. I suppose Newcastle would probably be coming for that crown now. But yeah, I think the way the season's gone, they've probably changed their perspectives on that a little bit, as you alluded to. I think they're probably thinking, okay, well, 100 million was probably not bad business, especially as they've got in Coutinho for 11 million or something in the end. Of course, they're not the same player, but it's in terms of that star quality, someone who sort of elevates the whole team and lifts them well above conversations of safety, relegation. They've got that, and they've got an 89 million in the bank as a result of that kind of essentially swap. So yeah, I don't think they'll be too bitter about it anymore. But like you say, it could provide a little bit of that extra edge, and yeah, I suppose Liverpool will be hoping it does.
But like you said, for Liverpool, unlike Manchester City, this is not the only thing that they still have to fight for. There's a Champions League final, and whatever happens, there's always the chance for redemption a week later in Paris. How much of that do you think is going to impact Jurgen Klopp's influence? Because obviously we have the likes of Salah and Van Dijk, who kind of have a few knocks, might be available for Wolverhampton on the final day, but do you think he's going to risk them, or do you think he's going to play a sort of half-rotated team, half strongest 11?
Yeah, I suppose it entirely depends where they are in their recovery. If it is a case of it being a proper risk, I don't think he would take it. That's not because he's conceding the league or anything, but we saw with Southampton, he trusts his second string, and he rightly trusts his second string. They got the result. Whether you think Wolves is a tougher test or not, it's kind of a little bit up for debate, I suppose. I imagine you'd say on the whole they're probably slightly harder, but the rotation will probably be slightly less extreme as a result. But yeah, if it's literally just, if we're looking specifically at Van Dijk and Salah, if they're not quite where Klopp wants them to be, I can't imagine he'll risk them. The Champions League final is the bigger game, and of course, it is the game which needs the best players more. I mean, whether you think there's more at stake in terms of winning the Premier League, winning the Champions League, there's a debate to be had. But in terms of the specific game that decides it, one of them, at the end of the day, one is against Wolves, one is against Real Madrid. So if you can pick one to have your full strength best 11, of course it's going to be Real Madrid. I think Klopp did sound pretty optimistic on both of those injuries, particularly a day or two after the FA Cup final. He almost hinted they might be back for Southampton even. So if the recoveries are going well and they're back and fully fit, then we could see them thrown in there. Klopp will take this game seriously. He knows the possibility is still alive, and that's going to be playing a part in his thinking. And there's a decent chunk of time now before the Champions League final. 6 days, so there's time for recovery. So whoever's fit going into the game will play if they're part of the first choice 11. But if there's even the slightest doubt in Klopp's mind, I don't imagine he'd take any undue risks.
I suppose as well for the players who are maybe not 100% to start, this will be a big audition leading into that final, their last chance to kind of catch Klopp's eye, which could help Liverpool get the result as well.
Yeah, that's true. It feels like we haven't really talked much about the actual Liverpool game, have we? It's just a case of whether City will slip up, but certainly Liverpool have to take care of business as well. Wolves are a good side. Jose Sarr this season has been incredible. You look at these sort of goalkeeper stats, and it's Alisson stands out in a lot of them, but then all of the ones where he's not top, it's he's second to Jose Sarr, who just seems to be having this remarkable shot-stopping season. He's perhaps masked, a few deficiencies of Wolves in that sense, so they can be got at defensively, and he's maybe bailed them out on a few occasions, but that's still something that Liverpool will have to deal with, something they'll have to get past. And yeah, like you say, with that Champions League final on the horizon, maybe that'll be the extra edge that's needed with players kind of, as you say, making that last push for a starting berth in what will be the biggest game of the season.
Yeah, certainly. And we'll be keeping our fingers crossed for Liverpool to get the job done, hopefully, and Steven Gerrard as well to get the job done for us. But I think that about wraps it up for today. Thanks, James, for joining me. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. And make sure to check out the rest of the Blood Red content going out today and all the written content on Liverpool.com.